Hi everyone, welcome to our latest video. Really pleased to be able to show you today this absolutely gorgeous Yamaha YZF R1 4XV model. Now, this particular bike is a 1999 S and started off life in Italy. She was imported into the UK in 2002, although from the service history we understand that the bike arrived in the UK a little bit before that. Certainly the first service stamp was in Italy, but no change from a UK bike. So basically an Italian bike is exactly the same specification and power output, and the 4XV, as you'll probably know, was a bit of a game changer. There were three bikes that spring to mind as doing just that, you know, changing the game, changing the landscape of sports motorcycles in the 1990s. The first, of course, was the original Fireblade, 1992. Who could forget the iconic Ducati 916 in 1994, and of course in 1998 the first 4XV model. Now this particular bike, as I say, Italian import, arrived in the UK officially in 2002, although we believe a little bit before that. She benefits, should I say, from a full service history. There's no fewer than 10 service entries in the service book, and of course we've got 2 keys. She's covered just 4,500 miles. Now it is important to state that the instrument cluster does actually read in kilometres, as does the speedo. So she's covered 7,171 kilometres, which, as I say, equates to around 4,500 miles. Frankly, it's the best example we've seen, and we've got 2 4XVs at the moment, becoming highly sought after. And I think in this particular instance, this mileage and this condition, it's definitely a solid investment for the future. I think it's fair to say that the original graffiti deckled white and red bikes are by far the most collectible of the 4XV models. Though certainly with this sort of mileage, we would expect a red and white one to be fetching certainly upwards of £9,000, probably closer to £10,000 at the moment. This particular bike is 6,995, and as I say, I think it's a solid investment for the future. We're going to take you around the bike now. We're going to do some close-ups, show you the left side, the right side, and even a small section of video with the fairings removed, so you can see what's lurking behind. And we hope you enjoy the video. Welcome back everyone. Here you can see our gorgeous 1999 S-Reg Yamaha R1 4XV model with half her clothes missing, but just a really good opportunity just to see what's behind the fairings, and obviously show you the beating heart of any Yamaha R1, which is this 998cc 5 valves per cylinder inline 4. Now, as you can see, the oil in the sight glass is immaculately clean, having just been replaced by ourselves, and you can see the engine number there. And of course, with all our bikes, the engine and chassis number match. Obviously we have to factor in that bikes of this age can have a history, but fortunately this one, having covered just 4,500 miles with a really lovely service history, there's no such dramas. We've also carried out a coolant change, so you can see we're right on the button there in the expansion chamber, and it gives us an opportunity to show you the downpipes. Again, whilst this bike's done very low mileage with 4,500 miles, those downpipes are still a really nice thing to see on a bike that's 20 years old. No corrosion. We've seen Suzuki sports bikes 3 years old with much worse downpipes than that, and again, as you can see, absolutely no damage, scuffs or scrapes to any of the side casings. The paint is still evident on the valve head there. Again, that's something that some of these earlier models with higher mileage can suffer from. And you can see without the fairing on, we can see that the frame is absolutely perfect. So basically this engine, as I say, it's a 998cc inline 4-cylinder engine with 5 valves per cylinder, which is the format that the R1 maintained until 2007, when it reverted to a 4 valve per cylinder setup. And that develops about 150 brake horsepower. Now if we factor in that when this bike was first launched, 150 horsepower and a dry weight of 175 kilos, that was something else. And I think as MCN rightly say, 20 years later, this is still a sports bike to be reckoned with, even by modern 200 brake horsepower bike standards. This is still a seriously quick bike. Okay, so we're going to do a start up for you. Now normally we would start our bikes from perfectly cold. There is some residual temperature left in this one from our test ride earlier on. As you can see, she's currently showing 50 degrees centigrade. And there she goes. So again, being 20 years old, this is the carbureted version of the R1. So the 4XVs and the 5JJs that followed, effectively up until 2002, the R1s were carbureted. So you will need to keep a steady flow of fresh fuel through the carbs to save having those removed and ultrasonically cleaned. Talking of which, carbs on this bike were ultrasonically cleaned by the previous owner after a period of time being laid up. But she rides absolutely beautiful. And there is an argument to say that that carburation obviously makes older bikes a little bit thirstier than modern fuel injected stuff. But we don't have the restrictions of oxygen sensors and you know, all sorts of catalytic converters and so on and so forth. So this is a classic old school analogue, but in many respects still very modern sports motorcycle. So as you can see, she ticks over absolutely beautifully. It's around about 1100 RPM. Once you come back from a brisk ride and she's up to full temperature, that'll pop up to about 1200 RPM, but we can adjust the RPM depending on the time of year and the ambient temperatures. I'll just give the throttle a blip so you can hear the standard exhaust. Just hear how crisp and clean that is. Still idling, bang on 1100 RPM. So there you go, that's the start up. A bit of an opportunity to see behind the scenes, so to speak, with the fairings removed, and we'll see you back here shortly for the rest of the right hand side, and followed up by a summary. Hi everyone, here we are on the right hand side of the bike, and we're going to take you around the right side, front and rear, and do some close-ups so you can see just how beautiful this 20-year-old Yamaha R1 is. So we'll start with the nose, or the front end of the bike, and the first obvious thing is both the mirrors are absolutely spot on. No scuffs or scrapes on the mirrors, and these are original folding Yamaha mirrors, so if you need to get the bike into down a pathway or through a doorway, that eases things. Now if we're being really fussy, you can probably just make out the camera there, a tiny little chip stroke scratch on the nose cone there, and they may not even show up on the camera, but there are one or two other microscopic paint chips, but just commensurate with a 4,500 mile bike. Obviously she has been used. We still think it's probably one of the best ones out there, but just in the interest of being completely upfront, that's the worst one, just that tiny little mark there. Front fender, no chips on the leading edge of the front fender, and obviously as you can see all the Yamaha decals down the side are very much intact. As you can see, we've got the 4-pot brake calipers there. Of course 1998 was some time before radial mounted brake calipers reached mainstream production motorcycles, but I have to say, having ridden this bike just this morning, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the brakes. Stops on a sixpence, and it's also, everything is completely standard on this bike. As you can see, we've still got the original Yamaha brake disc bolts, and they're very often replaced with stainless steel bolts from Pro Bolt and various other aftermarket suppliers. And you can see the paintwork on the wheel is absolutely perfect. No scuffs or scrapes from previous tyre fitments or anything like that, and clearly a bike that's been dry weather only, I would suggest. Absolutely stunning. Okay, you'll notice that she's currently wearing Supercorsas, Pirelli Diablo Supercorsas. They've been on the bike for around about 500 miles. So whilst we very much feel that this bike is destined to sit in a collection, it does need to be ridden, of course, and you can be safe in the knowledge that she's got up-to-date rubber. No marks or scuffs on the indicators. Original levers, original bar ends, and the paintwork on the fairings and the belly pan section can only be described as absolutely immaculate. In fact, generally I would say the paintwork on this bike is 9.5 out of 10. Tank is absolutely perfect. There's no dents, scuffs or scratches. As you can see, we've got a carbon fibre. I'm not sure if you can work out the indentation there, but it is actually a genuine Yamaha R1 carbon fibre tank protector there. But as I say, no dents or scratches on the tank, and clearly she's not even done enough miles to suffer any lack of damage or scratches on the knee section, where your knees grip the tank. You can see that beautiful brushed finish on the frame. It's just what you would expect a bike with this sort of mileage to be. It's absolutely beautiful. Over to the swing arm, and just briefly show you the shock. You can see from this side how clean that is. We'll pay that a bit more attention on the left side of the bike. Just a sign of some rubbing on the swing arm there, but again no indentations or anything like that, just some rubbing marks. So whether or not in the past it's had an aftermarket exhaust, as I say, we haven't owned the bike since new, so it's impossible to tell, but she's currently wearing the original factory fitted exhaust, which is absolutely lovely. Again, the areas that you would normally expect if a bike had ever been over to be dented and scuffed are all good. Tiny little mark in the exhaust just here, but again you have to be, as I am, on my knees close up to really show that. And you can see there's no real corrosion or anything on the end cap, and I think that's proof that it's the right exhaust for the bike. So back to the rear wheel, and again you can see just 500 miles ago the Pirelli Supercourse was fitted. And you can see just how clean the chain adjuster assembly is, right into the rear hub. And again, there's no corrosion on the inside of the brake discs or brake disc retaining bolts. And as with the front, the paintwork on the wheel, absolutely perfect. You see the factory fitted hugger as well, which is colour coded to the same colour as the bike. Again, there's no scuffs or scrapes or stone chips on there. Actually, it's often this rear leading edge that suffers with the stone chips, obviously with the direction of the tyre coming towards it, with things being flung off, but that's all fine. And again with the tail unit, oh excuse me, I mean, for a 20-year-old bike, that is still a cracking, absolutely cracking tail unit. Still looks up to date even now, I think. You can see we've got a pillion cover here as well, but we do actually have the pillion seat if there's someone you don't like enough to put on the back. And as you can see, she's still got the standard rear indicators and number plate hanger. So there you have it. That's the right hand side of the bike. Hi everybody, welcome back, and here we are on the left side of the bike, and we're going to take you through some close-ups, as we've done with the right side of the bike, just to give you guys a really good idea of how clean she is. So again, we'll go back to the nose, and of course, apologies for repeating myself, but we have just got the very smallest of marks there on the middle of the nose cone. Almost impossible to avoid, I guess, over a 20-year period, regardless of mileage. And you can see on the left side the brake discs, exactly the same as the right, extremely clean, no build-up of corrosion or brake dust in the brake disc bobbins there. And of course we've got upside down forks if it wasn't quite ready for radial mounted brakes. 1998 was of course ready for upside down forks, and these are fully adjustable as well for preload, compression and rebound. But as you can probably see, we'll do some close-ups, they certainly don't appear to have ever been touched. Normally we can see evidence of these being adjusted with socket or spanner marks. So as far as we can ascertain, she's in a factory settings on the suspension. Again, same with the right side, the left side indicator is scuff free, and you can see the paintwork on this left fairing going down to the belly pan. We would normally expect on a bike of any age, almost to a certain extent, once they've been ridden for a few thousand miles, we would normally expect to see lots of stone chipping in the painted section in front of the downpipes and on this leading edge of both belly pan and fairing, but really, other than a couple of tiny pinprick chips which are actually on the white decal there, probably won't even show up on the video, that fairing could have just been unpacked in a parts department. Absolutely lovely. Again, frame's completely unmarked. Follow that all the way down to the swing arm pivot. And again, normally on a 20-year-old bike we'd expect to see discoloration on here from years and years of chain grease and just general wear and tear. And you can see there's not even any scuff marks on the heel plate there. Generator cover is blemish free. And there's our fully adjustable rear shock, again for preload, rebound and compression. But the only thing we could criticise it for, I guess, if we just zoom in very slightly, is on the height adjusters there at the top. Just the very early signs of a little bit of corrosion there, but certainly nothing that would warrant doing anything with it. It's still, in our opinion, probably one of the best 4XVs that you're likely to find. But as I say, it's an honest bike, it's a genuine bike, it's an original bike, so yeah, somebody could put a brand new shock in there and try and make it something it isn't, but I think most people could probably live with that. Again, the left hand side of the swing arm mirrors that of the right, completely blemish free. And obviously we've got its factory fitted paddock stand bobbins, but you can see from the area around the paddock stand bobbin that it's only ever been lifted very cautiously, because there's no paddock stand marks. We've had it on and off a stand a number of times, and certainly do take care. And as far as we can ascertain, she's on her original grey steel chain. But look at that rear sprocket and the sprocket nuts. Again, that is the sort of cleanliness that one would normally expect to find on a restoration project. But this is factory fresh. Again, you can see that famous 4XV, whilst it's upside down, you can see that 4XV marker on the wheel spoke there. And again, the paintwork on the wheels is close to new. I'm not an advocate, as many of you will know, I'm not an advocate of the phrase as new, but there are certain elements of this bike that are certainly as close to new as one could possibly expect a 20-year-old bike to be. And again, just to finish up on the tail unit there, all the decals are still in order. Standard size number plate on the original number plate hanger, and of course we've already covered the Diablo Super Corsa. So there you go. As they say, pick the bones out of that. In our opinion, that's one of the cleanest 4XVs you're going to find, but we'll be back shortly with a summary, and I hope you've enjoyed the video so far. Okay, so just to summarise, this is our absolutely stunning low mileage Yamaha YZF R1 4XV. This is a 1999 S, originally Italian registered import, arrived in the UK in 2002, where she's not only spent most of her life but covered most of her miles. I think the phrase modern classic is bandied around more regularly than necessary in the motorcycle industry, but I think it's true to say that the 4XV model R1 is very much that. It is very much a modern classic. As we said at the beginning of the video, along with the original Fireblade, Ducati 916 and a number of others, but this was a real game changer with 150 brake horsepower and 175 or 177 kilogram dry weight, depending on which review you read. It offers astonishing performance even today. 20 years ago, as I say, it rewrote the rule book. Wasn't really tested until the Suzuki GSX-R 1000 K1 was launched in 2001, and it was certainly good enough to see the late David Jeffries win multiple TT titles aboard 4XV models back in '99 and 2000. So it's in wonderful condition. It benefits from lovely low mileage, some really excellent provenance and good service history. It's got modern rubber, 500-mile-old Super Corsas. So if you're buying to ride, she's got the grip to try and maximise that performance. But otherwise, she'd look very lovely nestled amongst some other bikes as part of the collection. This bike's available at $6,995. We hope you enjoyed the video, and please see all our other photographs and description on the listings. See you next time.